For the 6th of 2023's 12 Beers of Christmas, we've got a 2-for-1 gift of smoked raw ales brewed in the traditions of Norway and fermented with 2 indigenous Norwegian kveik cultures. These beers have everything: alderwood smoked malt from Norway, whole malt, cold overnight steeping, followed by a hot mash with alderwood and juniper infused water, and then fermented hot. I'm joined by Adam Medick and Ryan Schenian to taste the smoky ales they brewed and fermented a few months back after an epic Norwegian Farmhouse brew day at Northern Brewer HQ. Before we smoke it up, Chop and Brew's 12 Beers of Christmas is brought to you with support from Imperial Yeast and the Yuletide cheer provided by our Patreon party people. Join them at patreon.com/chopandbrew. What's going on, everybody? For this 12 Beers of Christmas, a twofer of very unique beers. I'm here with Adam and Ryan. You may remember Ryan.
It's been a while.
And Miss Judy.
Yes.
From past...
Hi, Mom.
Adam. Sorry, you've never been on, so I'm like,
it's fine.
This is your first time meeting Adam. These are 2 smoked raw ales from the big, giant, epic Norwegian brew day, Farmhouse ales, that we did at Northern Brewer in mid-September. It is now going on mid-December. Ryan wasn't able to come to the tasting notes and represent, so I thought I'd give him a chance of Chop and Brew. And we're going to talk about these 2 beers for somebody that didn't see the Northern Brewer video at all already. How weird is this process?
I will say I have been homebrewing for 12 years now, and when we showed up for this brew day looking at this brew sheet, I felt like I was starting from square one. I had no idea what we were doing. It was kind of like every part of the process that I've been used to doing, throw that out the window.
Because it's a malt from Otterdal, Norway, alderwood smoked, insanely intense, a different way of drying than I think most people who hear smoked malt over here are thinking. And it just, we didn't crush it at first, we cold steeped it, right?
Yep.
So we're whole malt, cold steeping, which is weird enough in itself, overnight. Yes. Then what else was unique about it, Adam?
I mean, just kind of the whole Norwegian brew process of it. I mean, not just the brewing part of it, but all the back end. I was talking about, I didn't really carbonate this because we were talking about the process in Norway, and that usually how this gets fermented is it's in an open air bucket, which is completely opposite of what we do here. Everything's sanitized completely after the boil, which you're not even boiling. So you would think you'd want to be sanitized completely by that point as well. So that was kind of the interesting thing, and I think that could also end up with why we're getting some different notes, which we might allude to later.
Oh yeah. So again, raw ale. It was never truly boiled. Right. The hottest it ever got was during the mash, right?
Yeah, I think we were shooting for 170 roughly.
Yeah.
Then you ran that through a strainer of hops
with
per
hops,
Ivar's instructions.
Right.
So they're not the same wort even, because you kind of took your wort off, ran off, combined. So you both got different gravities, 1035, something like 1065?
50s, yeah.
Or 1050s. Selland flakes from Ivar.
Yep.
Otterdal.
Yep.
And they're very different beers.
Yes.
Tell me about each of your own, and let's kind of compare them against each other.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So basically, I got from Ivar the Selland flakes. So I added just a small amount, I would say maybe like a fingernail or so, roughly size flake, to my whole 5-gallon batch. Let that ferment around 95 and kind of slowly drop down a bit in temp. I think the coldest it got was maybe 60 throughout the whole entire process. The whole entire time that it was fermenting, I could smell the smoke aroma coming through. So it's really interesting and fascinating how the smoke is still there, but I think a lot of it kind of fermented out as it was kind of fermenting. It just had blowing out through the airlock.
I remember the first thing you said to me was smoked orange juice.
Yes, I definitely think, and I think a lot of that has to do with kind of the esters from the yeast in itself. Kind of gives that orange kind of ester character, and that could be maybe temperature dependent as well, fermenting a little bit warmer, getting a little bit more of those fruity flavors kind of coming through. And then also you have the smoke, and then I think the pH is a little bit lower too, so I think that additional acidity gives that impression of kind of an orange, like a little squeeze of orange kind of into the glass itself. And so it's just, you have a sip and your mind is kind of blown a little bit. It's kind of like one of those beers where you have it and you're like, What is this?
Smoked mimosa.
Yes, exactly. Right? Smokey Robinson was the name I gave it.
Smoky Robinson. Also carbonated. So we're
Yes,
getting
this one is carbonated.
this effervescent. Again, that's kind of like my brain thinks like smoked mimosa because it does have this sparkle
Right.
of like a tartish kind of champagne, dry champagne, but with the orange juice,
Yep.
the smoke. It's orange.
It is.
Adam-
It's fitting.
Adam's beer for some reason turned out this like really interesting like auburn bordering on purple.
Yeah, a little bit.
Is it the smoky scissor?
It must be. I don't know. But you talk about it is, one thing between ours that is also different is you smell yours. You don't get much of that smoke. You smell mine.
Yes.
I mean,
it really comes through.
Having it the first time it sees air, it like almost you're like, oh, you can tell it's a smoky beer.
Right.
And you can smell it a mile away type situation. It kind of keeps that profile that we had in the wort.
Right.
Which, I'm curious how that happened, but.
Another thing we did not mention yet is, so it's cold mashed overnight in a very thick mash, I would say, of just straight water. But to bump the heat up to the 170 with the second true mash, it's the juniper and alderwood infused
Boiled
water.
water, yeah.
The reason I say that is because like that jumps out at me even before I drink this.
Yeah.
I get a big black pepper and junipery kind of nose off of this, almost plum and pepper.
Exactly, and this was even the first time I've even used elderwood water, and you can definitely taste it. And I think in both of these, that water really comes out versus just typical tap water.
For sure.
Or
And
water.
I definitely think Adams has a little bit more sweetness to it. So I feel like I'm getting a little bit more additional kind of flavors kind of coming through that kind of are a little reminiscent of, like Chip just said, like the plum that's kind of coming through there. I definitely think it's just so crazy how vastly different they are, and I don't know if that's all. Is it the yeast that caused that huge differentiation? I mean, because honestly, like side by side, they're kind of completely different beers.
Yeah, for sure.
And they shouldn't be. That's which is so weird about it.
I definitely think the differences between the Selland and the Otterdal, I believe, is a raw ale kind of kveik, whereas Ivar's is a hard-boiled kveik. And as far as the words that they like to go after, but also we learned kind of maybe the hard way, maybe just the proof in the pudding way that whole malt mash did extract sugar, but not on par that we were led to believe it was going
sure,
to.
yeah, definitely undershot the gravity we were kind of hoping
Yeah.
to achieve.
Right.
And so I think a lot of times, especially with kind of mine being a little bit more acidic, I think if there was a little bit more ethanol in there, a little bit more alcohol to kind of round it out, add another element to the beer, I think it wouldn't taste quite as dry and just tart and smoky as it does.
Yeah.
I think having that additional layer would be kind of nice. I was actually kind of thinking on the way over here, if I wanted to doctor it up and do a little something different, I was thinking like a little vanilla bean or something might be kind of nice to add kind of that essence of sweetness if I wanted to kind of go crazy on it, but I think I'll just kind of leave it be.
Any other thoughts about yours, Adam?
No, I think everything. It's a very interesting, and even I believe we had some original Norwegian brews that day, and I think that really opened up my mind of when we think of smoky beers here in America, they are true smoke. You get the smoke flavor, almost no sweetness whatsoever, and we had that, and I was like, oh, this is something that. And then these tastes came out just pretty much like it, and I was a little surprised by that. Initially when we had the first brew day, and then now as well. And I actually kind of prefer a little bit of sweetness with some of it. But
Yeah.
it does throw off your senses though, as you're smelling smoke, and the next thing you know, oh, that's that's not smoky or as smoky as you thought. No,
And I found that sometimes with smoked beers, you'll have some where the aroma, like sometimes I've used the oak smoked wheat malt with Medick and that is like the nose on it is super smoky, and then you drink it and it kind of surprises you. Palate wise, it's not as smoky as the nose would lead you to believe.
Shout out this week in Rauchbier. Also,
Yes.
our friends there, Christmas beers. If you would like to see the full brew day video and see all of these really wild techniques, traditional techniques taught to us by Ivar and Johnny in action, go check out the link in the video description below to Northern Brewer's video. This week in Rauchbier we'll link to.
Indeed, we have to.
I don't know. I think there's some. I can't remember. I don't think we've written these recipes up yet thinking no one's ever really sat down
I was
and
gonna say.
gone through Ross's notes and actually figured out
I
like,
feel like
is there-
Ross might have to.
is there a way to replicate this? Either way,
Yeah.
really cool, eye-opening. This literally kind of tastes like Christmassy to me.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
after having not had it since September, I'm like, it is. It
Might have to start bringing this out a
Yeah,
little
it was
more.
just supposed to be a beer of Christmas because it was an excuse to get together with you guys, but this is actually a beer of Christmas.
Right.
Smoky Christmas, boys.
Right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Smoky Christmas.
Smoke for smoke.
Route for route. They're so different.
Yeah.
They are.